Hey, beautiful people. My name is Kristen. Thank you for stopping by my channel. Today, I have a more in-depth discussion and review of the book S. This will be spoiler free though, but hopefully it'll provide you plenty of information to decide if this is something you want to invest in or look into, or maybe pick back up if it's been sitting on your shelves kind of intimidating you. It is a book by J.J. Abrams and Doug Dorst, and the only way you know that is the slipcover with the name S and their names. Once you take it out of the slipcover, it actually appears as a completely other book. It is mimicked to be a book from a library, The Ship of Theseus by V.M. Strada, and it has the Dewey Decimal tag and all that. Then the pages are actually yellowed. There are inserts. There are notes. It is basically becomes a story within a story. And so the first thing I kind of want to share is that this did not feel to me like reading a book. Like if I felt in the mood to read, I didn't really necessarily want to pick up this book. It takes, when you're reading something like this, even if it's just the pages, you are kind of in the midst of a puzzle, right? Because the story on the book is told, supposedly it's the last writing of this mysterious author, and it is a story about a man who is kind of shipwrecked, finds his way on and off of this ship, that even if the ship seems like it's completely destroyed, somehow mysteriously he can find his way back to it. And the crew is mysterious and, becomes mute and can't even explain. He does not know who he is. He is kind of woken up from the shipwreck, not really fully knowing his identity, trying to figure out and piece together what's going on. You're trying to figure out what's going on. And in typical and superb J.J. Abrams style, the ship itself has a different time passage than when you're on land. If you watch the series Lost, which is my all-time favorite TV show, there was always something really funky. It was like a plane wreck where they got stranded on an island, but the island itself would move, and the island itself would seem to be alive or have a personality and smoke monsters. And then you would discover that time was passing differently than anywhere else, and you would actually flash forward, flash backward, and flash sideways. And if you appreciated that, or if that sounds like something you would appreciate, this story is not disappointing in that. I loved the actual main story of this book. I thought that it was very clever and interesting, and I was very much into it. I would read one chapter of the actual book and then go back and read the notes. The author, who's fictional, right, supposedly left clues to his crew, to his companions, what we think might be even his lover, about some other things that were going on in reality about spying and dealing with resources and smuggling and murders and all this kind of stuff. And they were leaving clues like where they were going to meet, what was going on. And so the author supposedly used the writing itself, the book itself, to communicate in code. So you're then using this wonderful, mysterious story, and you can figure out what happened. And there were a little lengthy list of names and happenings that was a little difficult to understand, and sometimes I would get bogged down in that and lost. But I also appreciated that it wasn't completely clear-cut or easy to figure out, and then some of the notes on the sides would help you also figure it out. So there was also notes from the students. The notes are all in different colors, and it did not take me long at all. By the end of the first chapter, I could tell which colors of the pens were older, like and they were different storylines for the two students. So the marginal notes are between two students. One is a current grad school at a college, and one is a graduate student who was basically expelled and had been an expert kind of studying of this author. And then I will say the storyline of the development, because these two people who are leaving notes for each other at the beginning do not know each other at all. So the part of them getting to know each other, getting to hear their backstories, even leaving each other little letters about this is what happened to me, the most traumatic thing in my life kind of thing. I love that. The parts where it would kind of say like there's something endangering them or somebody's after them because of what they're discovering in this book, that felt a little far-fetched and a little suspend my disbelief, which I could go ahead and go with for the story, but it just wasn't quite as satisfying and as well done as I felt that part could have been. But regardless, I was having a brilliant time. There are footnotes in here that have a code, and I do want to share that if you want to put it together like a puzzle, because that's really what it feels like. This feels like you've got a huge 1,000-piece puzzle, and all the puzzle, when you put it together, is words. And so you're finding words, finding pieces that fit together and make words, finding pieces that fit together and make sentences. And then what does that mean? And if you want to figure out the code, just like the college students, you can do that. They leave you enough clues that you can actually decode and decipher. If you're more like me and you just want to enjoy the storyline, they put their solutions and they write notes to each other. So you don't have to necessarily do the legwork of figuring it out. You can go, oh, here's them solving it. But there are a few that they never solve because they later on start meeting in person as well as writing in the notes to each other. So some of that we know they were doing face to face, and we don't get the benefit of knowing that. So there are resources online that you can go to and figure it out. And that's what I did. Like when I got to that part, I didn't necessarily want to spend the time and the energy to actually use, like there's even in the back, like a decipher wheel where you can actually uncut, use the footnotes, use all this, figure out the actual message. But that wasn't the way I wanted to derive the joy, but it was cool because when you do go onto the websites, you can see how other people have really enjoyed that and kind of that fandom of the book. And, so however you want to experience this book, however you want to do it, you can do that. And I just felt like it was, if you like working puzzles, if you like digging in and problem solving, if you like kind of that decoding, and if you like the weirdness of J.J. Abrams and, time warping and all that kind of interesting things and kind of thinking about that kind of realm. And, and he just kind of at the end, a lot of people don't appreciate his whole philosophical kind of, universal thought bubble that kind of is the ending to a lot of people. That's unsatisfying, but to me, I like that. I like that mystery and that kind of vagueness, if you will, even. So if any of that sounds good, you can continue to look for spoiler-free reviews or write-ups, or on the website there's usually parts that will say, here's the spoiler-free part, here's if you want the solution, or here's if you want to know what's actually going on, kind of thing. So you wouldn't be left in a lurch or not understanding if you didn't want to be. But it's fun to kind of problem solve. So I thought this book was everything that I wanted it to be. I wish there was more of this. I think that if, any of that sounded good, this definitely, I don't know that I would rank this as one of my top books of the year because, again, I didn't feel like it was reading necessarily, but it's definitely 5-star in the sense of my enjoyment, how much I love it, and I am going to cherish this and keep it and probably continue to dig into it, look at it, and just appreciate it for what it is. Thank you for stopping by, taking some time. Like and subscribe if you want more reviews. Have a great day, y'all.